Hey, good evening, everyone. It's Fett263, and this is the Fett263 Presents Fun with Saber Effects for Proffieboard. Thanks to anybody who's joining. I have a couple of things I was going to just kind of talk about. I actually had there was no live show last week with the holiday, and the week prior I put out a large update to the library. A lot of it was changes that you actually don't see, but there's a lot of stuff that kind of people might miss. So I wanted to walk a little bit through the library, and then if there was any questions on styles or whatever, and also kind of give a look at some editing for just in general. But if you have any questions, feel free to post them in the comments. Let me get the screen switched over. We'll go into the library. All right, so yeah, it's about a week and a half ago, I did a large update to the library. The biggest piece of that was the addition of the compound colors, which was related to the in the enhancement screen. So I'm just going to kind of go in and grab one quickly. So within the enhancement screen, I added the ability for you to choose your color for your lockup effects, as well as for blast and clash. And as part of that, there was the addition of these compound colors, which are based off the film. So I had put this together. It's in the library. If you click the question mark, just to kind of give you an idea of the basic colors. Now the colors aren't exactly the same, but this is just kind of a quick kind of snapshot of some of the screen grabs that I had used. Hey, Mountain Sabers. Hey, Chet. Thanks for joining, guys. But so as part of that update, there was actually a lot of other changes that I had made in the library. So I'm going to kind of walk through the library. But if you have questions, feel free to put them in. And then I want to just kind of talk about a few other things. And if time allows, maybe to get into some more editing of styles. For Proffie OS 5.7, the editor hasn't been updated yet. I know Frederick's got a lot that he's working on, but he will get that updated. So some of the stuff that's available for OS 5.7, you're still going to have to do the hand coding. But I'm going to kind of give you a rundown of some other stuff that you can still do with editor. But so when it comes to the library, if you're in the sections for lockup, clash, or blast, this is just kind of the rough references. So and we talked about this actually over the past 2 live shows, but I wanted to show that being there. So these are now options. You can still go white, which is what has been in the library forever. So if you're used to those, the white effects, for me, white effects in a lot of cases look the best in person. A lot of times, even with these compound colors, depends on your saber color. Greens in particular, they're green. If you have a pure green blade, a lot of times those effects, anything with a yellow, they almost fade into it too much. So try them out and give them a try. But if you're finding that the compound colors that all have some kind of a yellowish to them aren't showing up on certain color blades, or you can always revert back to the white. But these options are now built in the library. Now these did change how the styles are built, and I believe I've debugged everything. A few of you have reached out with some bugs that you've found. There was so many changes to the structure of the scripts that put the library together. It was kind of expected, but I think I've got all of them worked out. But if you're in there, you grab a style and something doesn't compile, just let me know. A couple of them were just really simple things, and a couple of them were just things that actually just I hadn't had a chance to test. So typically, as this library's gotten larger and larger, I kind of spot check some areas, and then I can't technically go line by line on everything. But I wanted to call attention to these now being available. In addition, there was a big change to the swing section. Now I'm actually adding more stuff. It's really just been limiting in time, but one of the big things that I've added, let me just get in one of these guys. I'm going to grab a normal one, is the new options for swing type. Oh, I see some questions. Let's see. Hey, Kendall Hall. Hey, Brian F. Thanks for joining. Let's see, Brian. So, no, I put the library together. I mean, technically, anybody, and I'm going to show a little bit. And if you haven't seen any of the other shows, anybody can build styles for Proffie. And actually, what I kind of hope with these shows and also with the crash courses on my channel is to help people understand a little bit more about them and build their own. that's the great, to me, that's what I love most about Proffieboard, is that you can kind of design whatever you want. You just have to understand the tools and the syntax. But I got started just kind of messing around with the editor, which I'll show in a little bit. And from there, I just enjoy putting stuff together. And this library is kind of like part of the hobby is creating new styles. But then obviously you only have so many sabers. I think I've invented more styles than I have sabers, or than my sabers can hold. So the library is kind of a place to house them, but it also allows me to share with everybody. But these are still just a fraction of what's possible. It's really anybody can design. You can design for yourself. You can put stuff together. There is actually a sharing thread on TRA, which is where I got my start. But I don't know. Yeah, I mean, everybody designs styles. I think I probably post them the most, but I'm by no means the only one. And the hope with this channel and with some of the stuff I put out is that more and more people kind of take swings at it. But I'll show the editor in a little bit, actually. But so one of the things that got added in the last update that I did do a video about is the new, where are you? The new things on, there it is. Oh, that's fine. Enhanced swing was the enhanced swing, and then the ability to toggle the swing on and off. I lost my train of thought. Sorry for the. So what this does, and this won't work in editor. And Mountain Sabers, not yet. Frederick is going to basically be updating soon, I believe, but he has a lot on his plate. So the editor is still running technically OS4. But what I'm going to show you is you can take some of the styles from the OS5 library, bring them over, and still edit them, but some of this new stuff won't work. So the force toggle on and off won't work because it's using some new capabilities, but the enhanced swing would. But I'm going to leave the swing off for now. Let me see. Sorry, I'm reading as I'm thinking. It's probably not a good thing. I lose my train of thought too easily. Let's see, Alex. Oh yeah, that's what my hope is. I mean, for me, that's kind of where I got my starters. I actually just went in, when it was either Frederick or Megtooth showed me the editor. I might have been Megtooth. Because at first I was just basically taking the default config and just swapping the colors in text editor. And then I came across the style editor and I kind of started playing with it. And as you realize how the pieces, it's almost like learning, the kind of like how to build Lego sets. Like once you learn what pieces go where to create something, you can kind of go off and build a lot of different things. But it's, starting points help, particularly now with OS5, even OS4, as these styles have gotten a lot more complex, sometimes it's there's a lot to it, but if you learn the components of what makes everything up, it actually isn't all that confusing, or I hope it's not. Let's see, Calvin. Crystal Focus, the CFX does not run any of these styles. That would be a closed source board, Plector. They have their own system, their own styles, their own everything. This show is for Proffieboard, and all the styles in my library are Proffieboard only. They only run on the Proffie OS, which is open source. I'm not overly familiar with the CFX other than knowing that it exists, and I've seen posts on it, but I've never had one or really used one. From my understanding, and I could be wrong, most of what is in the current OS for Proffie is not possible on CFX. I'm sure eventually they'll get around to adding more stuff, but a lot of what's in the library, you're not going to be able to get similar capabilities with that. But I would ask over on the CFX group. They'd probably be able to help you out a little bit more. So let me switch back over. I completely lost train of thought, but that happens. But so what I'm going to show is if you leave out, so I want to kind of get into editor for everybody, but again, the editor isn't updated just yet. Once it is, there'll be a button on this to jump over. So if you want to play around with some styles from OS 5, here's the pieces that you want to leave out. Now, obviously, if you want the styles and the capabilities, you're going to want to choose them and obviously paste them into your config. But if you want to get a feel for some more of this stuff, essentially there's a couple pieces to this that are in an editor, so I'm hopefully be able to show them to you. So the first one is the multi-blast options. Now, I've had some questions on this. Multi-blast 1 and 2 are just different mixes. And if you're not familiar with multi-blast, what the multi-blast is it actually, every time you do a blast effect, it does a slightly different effect. So typically, if you had regular blasts, the location of that blast would move around the blade, but it's the same exact effect. So it would be either a fade, or it'd be a wave, or it'd have the ripples. But it was the exact same effect every time. And what I wanted was something that was a little more realistic, because obviously the blast isn't going to hit the blade at the same angle or the same intensity, or etc. So multi-blast just takes multiple different blast effects and puts them all into an effect sequence, which is one of the new features for OS 5 that you can't check in editor. So if you choose multi-blast 1 or 2, you're not going to be able to look at them in editor yet. But if you choose any of the other ones, you can. The other thing is the swing. I just lost my spot. So within the swing effects, if you can choose all of this, just don't change. You can choose enhanced swing, actually, that uses some. Just don't choose the force toggle on or off. And again, this is only for editing. If you obviously want to use them, use them. These are OS 5 styles, but I just want to show for editing only. So I'm going to leave this, actually, I'm going to leave this out because I want to show something different. And then the other two pieces that you will leave out if you want to take this stuff over to editor is going to be the on-demand battery level, because that uses a new effect for battery level that isn't in the library yet, and then also the on-demand power save. So if you leave these options set at none, it will let you just grab the style, and then you can go over to your editor, and you can use, I use Control V, but you can also just do paste, and it'll paste the style in. All right, let's see. Can you guys hear me now? Any better? I don't know what happened with that mic. On my side, it shows it's on. I'm hoping you guys hear me. Yes, looks like it. Okay. Sorry about that. I don't actually know what happened. The whole time it said the audio was on, but I guess it went away, and I don't know what you guys didn't hear. So I'll try to back up a little bit and go into this. I see a couple more people joined. Hey, Gerard, Kendall Hall, cool. Kim's, hey Kim. All right, so had some technical difficulties. Apologize for that. And let me get back into this. So I was showing kind of one of the pieces of the editor. So with the new compound colors in particular, there's actually going to be two spots to edit stuff. And this goes for your lockup. Your blast, and your clash. So if you need to edit them, in particular the sizes, you're going to want to be able to do it separately. Now, again, if you do have any of the new OS5 styles that don't get supported in editor and you bring it over and you get the error message, that's just until Frederick gets it updated. Once he gets it updated, everything will be visible. So earlier in the show, I showed what not to choose. But for lockup, when we talked about this 2 episodes ago, excuse me, I need a drink. My throat's dry. What's happening now is we're actually layering the effects. So there's actually 2 alpha layers that make up all of these new compound colors. And we can look at them individually. So this is the lower level layer. And you're going to notice this has, it actually has an effect on it to flicker. This one uses an audio flicker, and that's going to change based on your individual lockup sound, because this is a lockup effect. So if you have a really erratic, loud lockup sound, this will look a little different. If you have a quieter sound, obviously. But on top of that, the size here is on your bump width. So if you come in deeper into the style, if for those who are familiar with bump is one of the shapes. What we do with bump, in particular, all of this stuff is responsive. This is what allows the responsive controls. So what we're using is we're actually using the angle of your blade to find the location for that lockup, and that's what creates this moving effect up and down the blade. Now this is set for low blade, but the size, because I've had some questions to edit it, is actually the second factor. Now, all of my styles, in order to take advantage of the responsive capabilities, let me back this up to the level itself. I use a swing speed scale. So your size is actually between these 2 values. So if you need to increase it, you can increase the upper limit. You can also increase the lower limit. So you're going to click on it. We're going to come over here. And then we always submit it. And then what's going to happen is that's going to increase the lower. So again, the compound colors are now 2 layers. So we're going to have to do this in 2 spots. But if I get back here now, what's happening though is, because we're using this, all of the lockup effects actually have 2 responsive things going on at once. Now the editor is going to show them just continuously looping, but these are all based on your Saber. The first is that blade angle. So if you keep your blade perfectly still, that location is going to stay still. As you tilt that blade up or down, it's going to move, it's going to slide up and down the blade. Now the movement's actually compound. It actually moves up as you straighten your blade, but if you move below horizontal, it'll actually move back towards your hands. And that's just to kind of mimic as if you were really struggling with someone. But the second one that gets used is this swing speed. And it's a really low swing speed meter. And what it does is, as if you're holding still, it actually shrinks the lockup section to that lower value. Now, in the editor, you're not going to notice as much, but if you play with it and you have it active, the size of the lockup actually tightens if your Saber's still. And then as you change angles, so if you're moving back and forth with your opponent, it's going to use that really low swing speed threshold to grow. And what that does is that's what allows that kind of movement to really change that effect. So it's something that kind of gets lost in the mix because we usually talk about the responsive effects in terms of blade angle or the twist angle. But just mixing in this little swing speed of only 100, which is actually not a big deal of movement, gives you even more life to that effect. But if you want to change the size of lockup, all of my lockup effects in the library are going to use this scale swing speed to control them. So you'd want to at least set the upper limit higher if you want to grow it. If you want to shrink it, you can shrink it. And then the lower limit you can also increase. And that's just to let you edit that. Now that's the first layer. And again, this is the compound colors. On the second layer, it's actually a mirror image of it, but it's made to be smaller. So this one is a tighter one. And what that does is that creates that core effect that we have. So you'll see that the core stays stable and brighter, whereas the outer edges are what actually are moving and flickering. And that's, again, the two layers on top of each other. But if you want to just increase the overall size of the whole effect, you can do the first layer that appears, which is actually the under layer. If you want to adjust the other one, you'll go in. Again, you're going to find that bump width here. This is a fixed one, and you would just edit that size. So that's the lockups. And then we actually also use that swing speed. Let me go back up. Put the blade on. And if I'm going too quick, just put it in the comments. Hopefully the audio hasn't cut out. I haven't seen anybody post anything. But let me jump down to blasts. And if you're new to the editor or new to Proffie and this looks like too much, I do have the crash course videos on my channel. Check them out. And part of the reason that I go through this stuff is to try to teach everybody piece by piece. It's not something you're obviously just going to jump in and use overnight, but the editor tool makes everything pretty easy. You just have to learn how to read this side code. But what we're looking for is the blast effect, which is right there. So here's my responsive blast. And then in blast, if you want to change your blast sizes, the blast sizes here, I actually also use blast size. I also use the swing speed. I use a little faster speed. This is mostly for multi-blast, which is the mode where you can activate it so that every swing deflection does a blast effect. But for blast size, in most of the blast effects, I also use that swing speed. So swing speed, typically you first think of swing speed just for like changing that effect when you swing the blade really fast. But you can apply swing speed with a scale to other effects that actually depend on movement of the blade. And what it does is it just gives you a little more variation instead of it always being the exact same size every time or the exact same position, by just applying the swing speed in, which these are all built in the library, so you don't have to do it unless you're building from the ground up. But if you're looking for them, this is one of the things that some people were having some trouble with. They wanted to change the size of stuff, and they were seeing swing speed and they were getting a little lost. I actually put the swing speed in there on purpose because I want to give this stuff a little bit of life. So on the blast size, again, this one has a little bit faster swing threshold, but if you're keeping your blade perfectly still, that blast size is going to be 100, and if you're moving at that 200 speed, it's going to be 400, and then anywhere in between when that blast effect triggers, it's going to change that size, so that blast effect actually will change. So when you're looking for those sizes, those are those effects there. And let me just show you here. So if you just keep doing the blast, you'll notice sometimes that blast gets big, and other times it's a thinner blast. Now each blast effect looks a little bit different. Hey Kevin, thanks for joining. No, the style editor isn't updated yet. It was, I asked Frederick last week, obviously last week being a holiday. It's on his list, but he's got a lot he's working on. But I'm sure as soon as he finishes updating it, he'll notify everybody, and I'll put the links on the library, and I'll probably post in the Proffie groups. So that's what I'm kind of going through now. Is you can take some of the styles from the OS5 library, and you can still work on them in here. Earlier in the show, if you catch this on the rerun, there's certain pieces of the library that aren't represented yet, so you would just skip over those. Let's see, Brian. Combination, sure. Ignition effects. Yeah, I mean, you can combine anything. Do you have something specific in mind? We can probably jump in and mess around with it. For Brian, let me get a clean editor up. So for, I'm thinking you're meaning spark on. So I have the power-up effects in the library. I can show you those, but you can pretty much build anything. Let me grab a power-up effect in the library here. Let's. So under ignition, there's these power-up effects. Let's grab one. The unstable white is pretty. Shows up pretty well, particularly on red. So I'm going to grab that. I'm going to get my style. And again, it's not connected to the editor yet, but I can still paste it here. So now what will happen when we submit? So when I first ignite, this will have a kind of an unstable white wash over the whole blade, and then it'll fade out. So that's one of the that would be kind of similar. So the spark tip is the one that everybody thinks of, but those are available. That's actually a transition effect, which means you can build anything you want into it. So if we want to mess around with one, we can build one from scratch. So if we just put, just do a simple red bleed again, and then we're going to use a transition. Let's see. You always want TR instant on ignition, pretty much. Although you could switch it out for like the color cycle if you wanted it to have kind of a little bit. Actually, we'll show that after. But let's do something simple first, and then we'll build on top of it. So travel up. Yeah, I mean you can have it do anything. Let's do. So I'm thinking you're going to want something that goes up the length of the blade. We'll use a wipe. I think we'll set the ignition at 300, so we'll mimic it. Oops, I forgot. I always forget that concat. Oh, you're going too fast. Close the layers. So now when we do power up, that's just white, but it's going to wipe up with the effect. Now if you wanted just the tip, there is actually a transition for that we would use. So we'll take in here, we'll pull out the TR wipe and we'll go with the spark tip. There you are. And let's make that spark a little different so you can see it. And these colors are just so you can show the two pieces together. So I'll turn it off. So you get that yellow tip out front and then the white over the top. And I mean, you can layer in other stuff. You can do other transitions. So if we pull this transition from a wipe here, turn this into a color cycle, it's going to have to be really quick though. Let's see if that even does anything. Yeah, it's interesting. That's might be too quick. You might have to slow that one down. But yeah, you can. So I'm trying to just show you can technically change any of the effects out. And even in the one that we pulled from the library, we could just swap out. I think this had it. White, yeah. So within here, we'll look for the transition effect. It should be towards the beginning. Lockup. Mission. There you are. So this is him. So we can change out the transitions ahead of it if you wanted to. You can take that instant out, although instant with a wipe works pretty well anyway. But this will be the ignition effect by itself. And then what happens when you combine it with the actual full style is it wipes over the blade and fades in. And you can change that fade out. The fade looks the best, but you can change all of that out. So hopefully that was kind of what you were asking, Brian. If not, I can go a little deeper. Let me catch up also. I think I got everybody all caught up. All right, cool. Yeah, if you have any more specifics, Brian, I can throw it into. But the power-up effects would be the way to start with it, and then you can just add on top of that. You can edit those versions. Let's see. We showed that. We showed that. Yeah, I think tonight might be a quick night. I only had a couple things. I do have something I'm working on. It's not finished yet. So I unfortunately, with the holiday last week and just everything going on, I did not get as far as I wanted to. But I do have, there is actually some stuff in the works that hopefully in the near future, cool to do a blue and red combo. Yeah. How would you like to see that, Gary? Actually might transition itself well for oh, all right. Let me show Gary this, and then I'll get you to Brian. So there's a couple. There's actually good segue in the transition. There's a couple options you can do for red and blue. But one of the ones that kind of gets overlooked, it was made a while ago, is the split blades. Where did I hide split blade? So split blade lets you do a half and half blade. So if we grab, this actually might look kind of nice right here, but we'll leave it there. We'll leave it blend. Just gonna grab it. And I don't think I'm using this for anything, so I'll clear this out. So what the split blades do is it lets you put two blades together as one. So in this case, this one's going to use, what do we choose? I think I chose twist control. So what ends up happening is, as you turn your hilt, it's actually going to move the size of one or the other. And this is just a blue audio flicker with a red unstable mix. And you can grab any of the options here. So there's a bunch of options for the bottom half and then the top half. And then there's also all the colors, obviously. And you can choose how you want to have it done. If you want to have swing speed, which means that the size of the area takes over based on how fast you're swinging your blade. You can have it on blade angle. And you can also just have it just to be a regular split blade with no control on that. So that's all an option. And then there's also the dual phase. Jump back up to the top. So if you want to grab like two colors and have them still be kind of together, the split blade works pretty well. And then the dual phase, I actually did some updates to dual phase. Where'd you go? Dual phase here. And it's dual phase and split blade are similar in how you build them, but they do different things. So in this one, actually we'll keep it. Let's go to, I just did oscillate actually as a new one. So I'll show this. This should work. I'm not setting any other options just because I want to show this quickly. And then I'll get to the other question. So what oscillate does is it's going to fade back and forth. In this case, again, I chose the audio flicker blue and then the unstable red. And oscillate just goes back and forth continuously. And then the other options were there should be split personality or twist control or click to change. Split personality is kind of a cool one because it does whatever it wants actually. So we can drop that in. And this one just switches back and forth however it feels like. So it's going to and it has absolutely no set timings. It's just random when it's going to switch. So your blade will go from one to the other just continuously, and it'll last for longer or shorter. It just always keeps changing. But those are options where you can mix two colors pretty easily, or you could always just put the two colors together, do like an audio flicker with them. But those are some options. Let's see. Audio flicker. So Yeah, so if you want to do just kind of like what I showed, let me grab here. We'll go grab so audio flicker style. We'll go back up top. Go under audio flicker. Let's grab a blue. Yeah. Oh wait, I want to get the style. I don't want to show you what to edit. So under the power save, or under, I'm looking at the wrong thing. Under ignition, you'll choose your power up effects. And there's a couple different ones. You can have, there's two different unstables. There's a stable which is just a solid white. The unstables, I think, look a little, particularly in person, look better. And then what you're going to do is for your actual ignition effect, you can choose the spark tip extension. Now it's going to start white, but you can actually change that in the editor. So we're going to do spark tip extension. That puts that tip on. And then the unstable power up, we'll get that style. Now it's going to be white on white, so that spark tip will actually fade. But let's put it in. I want it really quickly. But that has a solid white tip with that power up, and we can extend out that fade time on that. So where's the ignition? It's down here. Ignition. There you are. So this fade out is how long it stays on. So it's the last value. If you wanted to have that stay visible longer, you could change it out. And then you got to find the spark tip, which is down here. So here's the spark tip. It's going to have the white on the tip. What we want to change that, we'll give you maybe a different blue so it stands up a little better. And you can do whatever colors you want. And then we'll take a peek at it. So let's see, that might be too close in color. But it has kind of that blue in front of it with that white flash up it. So the options are all in the library. You just combine them, and then you can edit them, and change up those colors as you want. And I realized I was probably covering the screen when you guys were trying to read that because I have a comment visible. Let me catch up with everybody. Hey, Mount Sabers, yeah, I'm glad everybody's enjoying battle mode. Start with the blue at the bottom and changing red tip. Yeah, for Gary, yeah, we can do that with a split blade easily. Let's go back to the split blade. There. So we'll do just a regular blue, and then instead of unstable, let's do a fast red flame. And we'll set it with swing speed this time. We'll get a hold of that. At least. So this one's going to use swing speed. So as you swing, that blue section will move up the blade. You can also flip it. You can kind of set all of these up. And there's a bunch of options, so you can just play around with them. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, you can do anything with transition effects. So the transition effects we can build as complex as you want. The ones in the library are all simplified just because I want them to work with everything, but there's no limit to what you can do with them. We could do a wipe effect with a couple colors pretty easily. We can build one out. I'm going to pull the comment out of the way though, since let's just build one simple one off the bat and show you how it would work. So actually, let's grab, I type everything, but let's grab the layer and build it out from here. So if we just grab the transition effect layer, and then we're going to modify this. So we could do something like wipe. We're going to change this. Wipe is really fast. Let's do 300. Let's do a fade here. So with the transition effects, when you use the TR concat, you can have a bunch of different things happen in a row. So we'll make it, I'm going to set everything to 300 just so it stays equal. And then you can add more. So we're going to do a Let's have it go. We'll go from white to maybe a yellow. Let's go to orange. And I'm just grabbing some stuff just to kind of give you a rough idea of what you can do. Submit that, and then what we want to do with the transitions, you're just going to make that an ignition instead of a blast. So what will happen now, we already powered up. When we power up, we get, and that was really quick, but that's basically combining all of those. Now, if you wanted to stretch it out, you could, but what's happening is we're actually going, the wipe is in white, then it fades right away over 300 milliseconds to yellow, then it fades again to orange, and then it fades out. And if whatever color blade you had under there would then become visible. But that's pretty much, that's the easiest way to get compound colors dropped in there, is to just include them in that concat. Let me catch up with the comments. I've got a bunch in here. Let's see, catch up with everybody. If I missed yours, I apologize. You guys all loaded up my chat field while I was looking somewhere else. Sure. Oh, hey, Meg Tooth, thanks for joining. I missed you yesterday. I had a ton of work after the holidays. Your battle brick wasn't working. That's not good. Let's see. Actually, looks like I covered the questions. Any other questions? Otherwise, let's see. So actually, Alex, I did a show on this several weeks back that's on the channel, and I posted it. Actually, let me see if I can find where it is for you. Let's go to TRA. It's going to be on TRA. So yeah, fire. The unstable effects, and actually you can't see because I have your post up. So for the KR pixel, you're going to set it to 264. You're going to want to be on OS 5.7. And then we're going to want to go into Professor Zorn's section. And I think it actually got pushed to the second page now. Because there was a little while ago. Where are you? Nope. There, oh yeah, there is this option. There's the subblade with stride, which splits the two sides apart. If you want to do that, or I know I had it in here. Where'd it go? There it is. Style adjustments. And you can watch I actually did it, actually it's been a couple weeks, but I wrote everything out. So for specific styles, particularly anything stripes-based or anything fire-based, you have to change the speeds. And what it actually is because of how the blades were built. So on those KR strips, which is what Alex's question was about, so in, actually let me see if I can put this link in the, is it going to let me? It's not going to let me from here because it's a different computer. I'll try to link it in the description. But it's on the third page of Professor Zorn's section, and it's the style adjustments. What it is, for anybody not familiar, the KR Sabers made that fixed. It was like a PCB pixel strip, and it's got 264 pixels. It's got 132 running up each side. But when they built this run, the data signal goes back and forth. So it goes, typically when you build your own NeoPixels or you buy them, typically the two sides are in parallel. So the signal goes from the bottom to the top equally on both sides. The KR strip, what they did is it's actually serial. So it goes from one side to the other. So it goes back and forth in almost a zigzag fashion for the signal. What that does is it increases the density in terms of where the signal needs to go, which is what that episode covered. And because of that, you're actually, the blade is 264 pixels long. It's 132 pixels long, but the signal's bouncing back and forth side to side, whereas if you had 132 pixels on one side and 132 on the other, that signal goes straight up 132. So it just slows some of the effects down because it's covering a greater distance. And it's really fire, stripes, and hump flicker, which are in this description here, were the main ones in my testing that really got affected. That if you do these steps in green, you can get everything running pretty close. Now you do hit kind of an upper limit with fire, just because if you really want super fast fire, the fire style itself is a very dense style, so that still might, if you're running super fast, it might not look great. The subblade with stride, which there's another post on that, is another option. What that's going to do is it's going to take your odd numbers and your even numbers pixels and treat them as two separate blades. So you'd have two styles, but they actually run just like a traditional NeoPixel blade, where it's one side and the other. But there's information on TRA for that. Let's see. Meg2. Let's see. Yeah, so that's the blade. What is that? Blade ID. I've never used it. I actually built all my blades exactly the same length, but there is a blade ID option where you set up, and it should be in the manual. And I'm sure there's more information on the wiki. And if you ask it, Brian, if you ask in the Proffieboard group, I know a bunch of people who've done it, who know a lot more on that side. But it's totally possible. It's actually a built-in feature. You just have to put a resistor, a different resistor on each one. I believe it's, actually I don't know which pad you put it on, but you just put a unique resistor, and it allows the Proffieboard to actually identify that blade versus a different blade, and then actually run a completely separate config for the length. That's the easiest way to do it. But there's a bunch of info out there. I just haven't done it myself to speak to it as well. Let's see. Nice. Yeah, I every holiday I have these styles that I'm trying to put together, and then the holiday comes and goes, and I never post it. So I figured, let me get out in front of Christmas this year. So I put that Christmas tree one up right away. So hopefully you guys enjoy it. It's just a fun style. I was just messing around with stuff. There's a lot of, I know people do candy cane and stuff, so I wanted something a little bit different. Let's see. Yeah, Blade ID, I've seen a lot of info on Blade ID. I've just never used it. So if you it's in the manual. But if you have specific questions, if you post up in like the Proffieboard support group or the open source group, there's a bunch of guys in there who probably help you walk you through it really easily. Let's see. Long ignition time. I'm trying to think. I thought this was fixed, Chet Osborne. There was a bug in the spark tip in OS4, one of the early versions, but I thought it got fixed in OS4. I'd have to look again. Now I can't remember. I do remember a bug, but that was probably beta in OS4. I thought that got addressed. I'd have to check again. Yeah, long ignition times were giving it a hard time. I'm gonna have to investigate that one. I feel like it was fixed, but if you're still experiencing it, maybe it never got logged. Spark tip extension. That one we might have to get back to you on. I do remember the bug. I just don't remember if it got addressed. So we'll have to peek at that and maybe talk to Frederick. Let's see. All right. Does anybody have any other questions? I am going to probably cut out just about 10 as usual, but I try to answer every question. Yeah, Chet, there was a setting. Let me see if it's in editor. Where were you hiding? You were a transition. Spark tip. I don't recall. Let's see if it does it here. If If the bug shows up here, that means it wasn't addressed. Although that's kind of, oh yeah, look at that. All right, let me talk. Let me take a peek with Frederick. It's yeah, I don't know that was ever fixed. We'll have to get back on that one because the white disappears on the long extension, which is what I recall. I'll have to get on that one. All right. Let's see. There is a way. Actually, you know what? Check. There's a way you can do it. It's maybe we're gonna layer it up on you. What's actually happening here? Let's see. So let me show you how we'll do this. And this is going to be quick and dirty just because of time, but it gives me a good opportunity just to show you something maybe useful. So we're going to do a transition. Now let's do a TR. Do it in white. Oops, now I got to put this. Let's see. I think I got this right. I typed in quick. I might have missed something. And then we'll do. See if this does what I want it to. Almost. I gotta fix that timer. Leave. That's why it's going too quick. So let's put this up to 1500. We're going to adjust the fade time also to 1500. So what ends up happening? Your spark tip is actually just a wave running in front of the blade. Now in the transition that's built, it does. Oops, I didn't submit. Why aren't you taking? There it is. And then we're going to set this wipe to 1500. So the transition itself is actually two transitions on top of each other, and it's just done so that it's easier for people to manage. But you can get away with doing this as well. So let's see. So if we do, that is really long. I might have to change that fade out time a little bit more. If we bump this up to run longer, it won't fade. Actually, we'll double it. So then you should get that white in front staying the whole time. So that would be kind of a workaround. This is for Chad Osborne. So you're going to put this, just do a transition effect on ignition with a wave, and you'll be able to run that wave out in front of your wipe, and that's what creates that spark tip essentially. Let's catch up. Yeah, I do have, let's see. So my favorite, it's hard to say. My film-based Kylo Ren Unstable was probably the one that got me into this, and that's still particularly because I'm in the 501st and I do Kylo, although we haven't had an event in forever. But the unstable effect for Kylo Ren is probably still my favorite. It's actually a really complex blade style, and that's what got me into kind of building styles. But I have a lot of that I play. That's part of the reason the library exists, is because I'm always trying something new. And sometimes I come up with something and I'm like, oh, and I read it for a while and then I get bored of it, so I swap out to something different. But the one that persists is going to be the Kylo Ren Unstable. Let's see. I do have some updates. I don't have anything I can show yet, but there is a bunch of stuff I'm working on. It's just I haven't had, between the holiday and this time of year, I'm getting busy. So my free time between family plus work and obviously the holidays is a little less. So I have a pretty long list of stuff in my head, Some of it I've had some chance to tinker with, and it looks promising, but it's not. I don't have anything in a position I can show yet. I was hoping to have one of these pieces ready today, but I just did not have time to do it. So maybe if I can get on next week and I have it working, I'll have something pretty cool for you to show everybody. Let's see. Hyperspace. Oh yeah, the hyperspace style is in the library. Yeah, Jesse actually had asked me to build that one. So that's, if you go into here, that'll be down under these specialty styles. It's the Millennium Falcon hyperspace style. And what it is the style itself is meant to mimic as if the center of the blade was the center of the cockpit screen, so it moves away from the center as if you're traveling through hyperspace. And there's actually specific ignition. There's a Preon effect and some other stuff that you can apply to that too. Let's see. Transition from an unstable to a fire. Yeah, I mean, you would just build out the transition steps. Now, fire style is one of those styles that sometimes bogs down memory though. So that one, you just gotta play with it. The fire style, fire and sparkle in the OS are the two biggest in terms of amount of processing power style. So if you layer in too many fire styles within, if you layer in too many fires together, you can actually bog down the processor where it just can't do it. So fire is one of those ones where you use it, but you want to use it sparingly. Obviously, particularly the flame control styles in the library, they actually have two flames going on at once, and it works fine. I think I have one style that runs 3 flames, and it runs fine most of the time, unless you have a slow SD card. I think over 3 flames, 3 fires, you're going to probably not be able to run them at the speed you want. SpaceX, yeah, you mean kind of like the shuttle blast off? We could probably do something like that pretty easily. I had done a fireworks style, which would probably be the baseline for that. Where did I hide that? That should be in here somewhere. It should be in the library. Yeah, no, I thought I had it. Oh no, it's an enhancement. That's right. If we go into blank blade and I add, I think it's an emitter effect, right? Emitter. I have so much in this library. There it is. Roman candle. All colors. Watch this. This was 4th of July. But this would kind of be a baseline for it. Now this one's going to have colors on it. So this is what meant to be kind of like a Roman candle. You run it on the blank blade, which is a black blade that lets the effect show up. But this one cycles through colors. But it's got an effect where it's going to launch that Roman candle effect, and then it explodes at the tip. You could don't want SpaceX exploding, but you could easily do something, just kind of take that, and we can take away the spark at the end and just do kind of a blast off type thing. Yeah, there's so much kind of old stuff buried in the library. I forget some of the stuff that's even in there. Sometimes if you just go and look through all, particularly those enhancements, you can find some stuff that I built a long time ago that I even forget. Preon length time. Yeah, so the length is built into the style. Let's grab one. Let's turn that off. Let's go grab a Preon. So some of these are going to be a little more complex. So the assemble and a few of these other ones are going to be a little more complicated, but let's grab an overload and silver. So your timings are all built out of transitions on Preons. Let's see. Oops, that's right. Preon has its own button. That's the Preon effect. And the timing for that Preon is down in here. Now this one has, so this is the transition. All pre-on effects are going to basically be almost your last style, just because they have to run when the blade is off. But the pre-on effect is just a group of transitions. Am I covering? Yeah, I'm kind of covering. Let me hide this. So you're just going to, the timing, almost all the pre-ons in the library are timed out to 8,000 milliseconds, which is about 8 seconds. It was just the only pre-on sound I had forever was one Jesse made me, and it was 8 seconds long. So that's why they're all timed out to 8,000 milliseconds, but you can edit them easily enough. So you're going to find all the timings in this transition effect. So this is the transition effect for pre-on, and this one has a few stages to it. So the first is a fade, so that's 2,000 milliseconds. Then we have another fade for 2950, and then we have another fade for 3,000, so it's about 8,000. Right, no, it's 7,000, and then we have a bounce out for 1,000. So the combination of these transitions, the boing is timed at 1,000 milliseconds, this fade at 3,000, this fade at 2950. And this one comes, I guess this must be a 9,000 millisecond one. But those are your timings. So if you have a complex pre-on effect, your timing is actually the combination of all of those. If you want to make it longer, just extend them. Or you can even just add to the transition itself. Now there's a few simpler ones that just have a delay in them. I want to say, I think pulsing is just a delay built in. So let's give a peek at it. It depends on each one, but if this one has just, oops, go up level. This should just be, yeah, that's just a pulse. So this one should just be a delay. Oh no, this one's a boing. Oh no, this one has a compound also. It's got a bunch of timings. But Mountain Sabers, you would just stretch if you want them to be longer, just change the cumulative times. If you want to be shorter, you would shrink them. Tron blade. There's the Tron. Usually the Tron is a bright white, right? I'm trying to remember. It's actually the ignition and retraction that kind of make that blade from my memory. It's been forever, so it could be wrong. But I think if you just let's grab a silver. I don't even think we need a flicker on that thing. I feel like those are just static. So let's grab a static. We'll grab it in silver. And then you're going to choose it's your ignition and your retraction. So you're going to want the cycle up, and then retraction we're going to want cycle down. And I think you just stretch this out, so I'm going to bump this up to 5,000. And then let's grab that style. Oops. Clean window. I think this is what ends up making a Tron blade from memory. It's been a little while. So I think that's what you're looking for. It's actually, I mean, you could choose any of the base blades, but it's really more that ignition and retraction that do it. Yeah, you could do audio flicker or random flicker. It's been a long time since I've actually seen the movies, and I'm probably thinking of the newer version too. But from my memory, it's the ignition retraction, which is going to be that cycle up and cycle down. That's really when actually those are color cycle as a style has been around since OS 1.3, and I think it was made specifically for the Tron effect. But it's just it's actually just the ignition and retraction enhancements. It's just the cycle up and the cycle down. And with color cycle, you want it to be really long. If you do those short, you can't see the effect. So I think 5,000 is probably a good one, but where'd that screen go? Yeah, that's really what you're looking for. It's really more that ignition retraction effect. And you can apply it to any of the blades. So as Mountain Sabers just posted, he did it on a Audio Flicker Blue, but you can do it on any of them. Actually, I'm probably going to head out in a second or two here. If you guys have more questions, feel free to shoot them over, and I'll try to maybe get to them. I'm thinking I should be able to get on next week. Like I said, this time of year, time seems to be getting away from me. And I do have stuff I'm working on for Proffie when I have some free time that I'm hoping to get done sooner than later to kind of share with everybody. A lot of the stuff I'm peeking at now will eventually make its way into an OS 6, so it's still got a ways to go. I was hoping to show one thing, but I'm still working on it. And Frederick's got some stuff in his pipeline, and there's a bunch of other stuff coming. So it's more on the way. But 5.7 is going to be around for a while, just because there's so much in it. But doesn't mean we're done with new stuff. So thanks for joining tonight, everybody. Hopefully, I know I was kind of all over the place and I had a little bit of audio trouble earlier, but hopefully gave you some stuff you can go and play with. Again, always take some time, play around with the library. As I showed, there's actually some stuff hidden in there that's, you might find something that you can use for other reasons. But thanks so much. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Brian, Alex, Kim, Smooth Jazz, Mountain, Chet. Lord Reaver. I don't know if Tom's still on. Tom, thanks for joining in tonight, and I'll catch you guys all soon. Have a great night. Thanks.